What's going on, everybody? I am super excited to bring you the Trevor Talk show and have some amazing guests here today. We've got Chelsea Crockett and Nick Hurst.
I believe you're Chelsea Hurst, aren't you? I hope so. Since you got married.
It's not what the book says.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true.
Well, the book was written whenever I was still a Crockett.
That's true.
Just to clarify, I already knew that. Thanks for pointing it out. But I'm super excited to be sitting down with the both of you today just to point something out. Y'all's podcast is not like anybody else's. And I mean that like in a good way. It's not like trash, like that I wouldn't listen to it. I actually do listen to it. And the thing that I'm really impressed with is the diversity of your audience. I just feel like this podcast is for everybody. You're not going after young people. You're not going after old people. I mean, you're not like targeting old people, but they can listen to it. But I just feel like this is a podcast for everybody. Just why? Why are you doing this?
Well, I think from a kingdom approach, I think it's incredibly important that we are targeting everybody that we can with a message, one of hope, but also of realism, saying like, hey, these are things that you deal with, these are things that I deal with, these are things that we collectively deal with together. And so someone has to start the conversation and initiate the conversation of actually dealing with these things. And so we just noticed a gap of no one was really tackling these issues, and we were getting a lot of questions consistently that people were asking together. So we were getting a lot of the same questions over and over again, and we just decided to take a different approach and bring it a different way and start a podcast that was delivering answers to all these questions that we were getting from people of all different age groups all the time. So.
Yeah, and I would say like we get DMs a lot about like a lot of relational issues that people have, whether it's in dating or within their marriage, and we usually don't answer the marriage questions because we're so fresh into it. But I would say that a lot of the topics that we cover are very like relatable for all of us, and I would hope that everybody can benefit from it. And it's just been really incredible to see over the past few months. It started in January of 2019, and now we're kind of like at the end of the summer, and we've seen quite a lot of growth from it, and we're just glad that it's resonating with people, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing it if it didn't resonate.
So Encounter Now has been going on since January of this year, and you're, like you said, you're closing into the end of the summer. How many episodes do you have out right now?
Oh man, that's a great question. We probably have somewhere close to that. Yeah, somewhere around 40 episodes.
So what inspired this podcast?
Well, we got approached with the idea of making a podcast, and it was on our hearts for a few months beforehand. And we just didn't really know how to practically, like all of the back end stuff, like in terms of editing and getting it out and what platforms to put it on was kind of like a new thing for me. I mean, I've done YouTube, but nothing else. So I was just really curious on how to do that. And then we had a friend who was starting a podcast network, and
Converge Podcast Network.
Yes, Converge. Right. And he kind of helped us out with that and has been kind of our back end, which has been really helpful. And so we just focus on making the content and coming up with all those ideas, and then they help us out there.
Yes. I think in terms of what actually inspired the podcast and the name. So it's kind of a weird name, right?
Encounter Now. Yeah.
But I also think it's relatively self-explanatory in the fact that we want people, when they listen to our episodes, we want them to know that they should be not so focused on 20 years, 30 years from now, like what is life going to look like. So when listeners tune into the podcast, the main thing that we want to be getting across and sending home is that, hey, you can control your every single day. There are certain portions of here and now that you do have access to and that you can take over. So focus on that, and then the rest down the road will take care of itself.
No, and I think that it's so ironic that you chose Encounter Now to name your podcast, because when a lot of people are searching for content, they're either looking for Gary Vaynerchuk or Jay Shetty, Gerard Adams, and all of these influencers that are talking about investments and like your 10-year approach, your 20-year approach, and just mapping out kind of like a blueprint for success. And while I love the content and I consume it, like I think it's very valid content, it's not wrong, but y'all are taking a unique approach to it is what I'm pointing out. Like you're talking about, let's talk about now, let's talk about the issues that are happening in not only your lives, but everybody else's. There's something for everyone to relate with in that podcast, and that's so important. And there is definitely not a great selection of podcasts out right now that are talking about the things that you're discussing. So I commend you for going out and taking that step and believing that God had a message to share through this podcast. And I think that it's going to be a tremendous impact on the years to come.
Thank you. I just think it's really fun too as well to do a podcast with the person that you love the most, and you normally wouldn't have these conversations together unless they're brought up in some sort of way. Like if we're formulating a specific episode about dating, we just normally wouldn't talk about that because that's not really something that we're like talking about as a married couple. Sure, we go on dates, but we're not talking about like what we had gone through in long distance relationship or any of that. So it's just fun to kind of recall those times and then also try to help people through the process. Obviously we're not perfect at it, but we definitely enjoy the whole podcasting thing. It's kind of nice to also do it in like your PJs and not have to be all
professional attire at its
I
best.
think another thing in addition to that I love about the podcast is we're not saying anything new under the sun here, right? But what we are doing is we're recalling lessons that we've learned in the past, and we're no sages, we're not 50 or something like that, and so we're not done growing in that process. But like I said, we are recalling lessons from times past that we've learned and bringing them to light in the form of a podcast. But I think in the process of doing that, it also helps us remember those times where we went through those things and really resonate and empathize with people who are going through them now. So maybe it's you that could be going through something, and a podcast or a video or something like that resonates with you enough to make you think about it a bit more and change your mind and maybe seek wisdom in it further. And so I think above all, that is the goal of the podcast.
That is beyond amazing. Where can everybody listen to Encounter Now?
Anywhere that podcasts are found. Apple, Spotify. What are some of the other ones? I don't know.
That's literally the only times I ever.
Really, anywhere that podcasts are found. Apple, Spotify, all the others. So
Google.
Yep, Google Play. That's right. Sorry, we left you out. But no, you can find it pretty much anywhere.
Encounter Now can be found anywhere that podcasts are available, and